So World AIDS Day is on the 1st of December, and this year it marks 40 years since the first cases of HIV were reported within our clinical community. And what we see is really from that patient engagement perspective, that was the start of the build to this patient economy. So you can see all the milestones there. What we had back in 2012 was a health tech journalist and a digital journalist with a very big aspiration saying, actually, patient engagement will be the next blockbuster drug. Now, that's very bold. But what we then see is Laura McKeveny, who exited Novartis at the end of last year, and she was the global head of patient engagement and advocacy there, saying that actually within Novartis's walls, patient centricity and engagement now does have a transferable business value for a company. So in terms of what does patient engagement do? Well, we are operating in a patient economy, and this is what it does for pharma. It accelerates their assets through the pipeline. So there are really three fundamental parts to patient engagement. That's awareness of their asset and awareness that they're creating new solutions for clients, for patients. That's activation of the patients to be able to understand how to use new medicines, new devices, new services, and to activate them again to be more involved in their self-care. And I'll come on to some facts in a minute, which really do iterate what Hans said earlier around the more activated a patient is, the fewer health resources they consume. That's a big saving. And to Panjita's earlier presentation too, what we also see is that there is a huge psychosocial benefit to activating patients, to helping them to understand the consequences of their involvement or their lack of involvement in healthcare decisions. So yes, patient engagement brings a pharma asset through the pipeline more quickly, and we get to the stage when we are delivering an amplified value of that patient engagement progress right at the end of that pipeline. But what we also see is there are triple win benefits here. The more activated a patient, the fewer health resources, the sooner these products and medicines are with patients. So ultimately, it's a triple win. Patient engagement really ensures better outcomes for patients, better outcomes for society. And that cannot be anything other than a fantastic triple win. So how does this translate within our business world if we're still talking about show me the money? Well, what we have seen now from a good decade of different kinds of patient engagement programs is that the triple win is achieved. Engagement has a benefit in every part of our healthcare system. So we have a lot of data now, a lot of published studies that demonstrate all these proof of purpose points. So it does lead to improvements in the delivery of medicines and services. It improves compliance and adherence to treatment. It's a unique therapy in itself, enhances stakeholder relationships. And by that, it means there are better conversations about health going on between a patient and their healthcare provider. It really does anchor organizations into that global healthcare structure, and it does add to that sustainability model as well. We cannot keep our healthcare costs rising and rising and rising. We have to do something that starts to do some part of amelioration around that. So we can achieve that triple win. What we can see is the more there is a patient engagement program provided by pharma, provided by a healthcare organization, it takes that passive experience for the patient. Things are done to them. Things are asked of them. It takes them to that next level, which is when they're more activated. And they report that they feel heard, they feel informed, they feel empowered. And then the next stage, the ultimate stage to reach is using the actual patient activation measure. And we know that as people go up that scale, and it's a 100-point scale, there are four main areas of it. They are the clinical indicators, preventative screening, healthy behaviors, and cost utilization. The more activated a patient, the higher their patient activation measure score, the better impact on health outcomes and costs. And we can see that if we really put it under the microscope in terms of actual outcomes. So a pharma asset and medicine that's been through the pipeline with a patient engagement program in accompaniment is 19% more likely to make it to market because the research is gathering experience information from patients, which is what our regulators are now asking for. So it's a no-brainer for a pharma client to include patient engagement in asset development. We can see the numbers there around engagement programs, increase adherence, reduce lack of compliance, and there are so many compelling facts that demonstrate that patient engagement delivers that ultimate triple win. And let's be really honest, there has to be a return on investment. Anybody who is investing in a patient engagement program, they have to have 4 very clear reasons for doing that. And the reasons are very clear. So what we can see is that engagement programs have to be in place legally, they have to be in place ethically, they have to be in place financially, and they have to be in place logically. And you can see some of the data there, but there is no reason to ignore or to exclude a patient engagement program from your delivery of service. And we can be direct in our response. There is a return on investment, and that is very well demonstrated. So we have plethora of studies out there now, and there's more and more adding to the evidence bank of data for the investment return for patient engagement programs. So whichever aspect you're coming from, pharma, healthcare utilization, patient support, there is enough evidence now to be confident that patient engagement programs deliver a return on investment. So just coming to the end of my presentation now, we're also asked to look at the impact of COVID on patient engagement, on utilization of resources. So there are 2 very clear things that have impacted on the patient potential from the pandemic. So if we look specifically at the impact of COVID on clinical trials, it has really moved how we run trials, how we recruit into trials, the kind of people we recruit into trials. This actually has really changed what it means for patients to participate in clinical trials. And some of the data is given there. But what always jumps out to me is this diversity aspect. So the US Operation Warp Speed vaccine generation program, it encouraged people from diverse backgrounds, including those who are most at risk from COVID, such as Black and Latino people. I've worked with several pharma companies who have oncology products and services, and they were able to create hybrid trials such that people could send their data in from their own home. So what's happened from the trial perspective is COVID has forced us all to take a fresh look at how we help patients to participate in clinical trials, the diversity of clinical trial and the inclusivity of clinical trials, and also the convenience of people participating. So we're really hopeful that there's a new era now for patients of clinical trial participation, and COVID has been part of the promulgation of that need for change. And then just finally, what we do see is that the patient engagement support programs that pharma provided during the pandemic really worked for people. So we can see that the impact of COVID, the impact that COVID has had on that pharma, patient and public relationship. And fundamentally, we need to have confidence that our pharma and research industry will deliver products and services that we need. And we really saw this, certainly during the information and the infodemiology part of this pandemic. So just a few facts on there. And I wrote this for Health Management last year, right in the eye of the storm, as it were. What we are seeing is that there is an adjuvant therapy part to providing information and support programs for patients. We've seen that there's a sense that there's a broader collaboration to be had. We're more open about the support that we need. The veracity of the information that pharma has provided in their patient support programs during the pandemic has been excellent. Now, one of the things that was being reported was that we are going to have a mental health tsunami following this, which is what the previous presenter just described has happened. And it fell upon us within pharma and within health education to try and do the best that we could do to make sure that the internet was a useful source of health information. So we're now starting to see that social media channels are being used as part of health management, and that's a really great way to share good information and mitigate inappropriate comments. And what we've actually seen overall in terms of that farmer-patient-public relationship is we can start to trust industry again, that they will collaborate. There will be this multi-agency, multi-company, multi-disciplinarian way to trust industry, to collaborate and create the treatments and vaccines and provide that extra supportive care that we need. So if we look at the show me the money question, there is absolutely no doubt, just in conclusion, that we can achieve triple win thinking when we include patient engagement in all aspects of our provision of care. So medical care and research collaboration needs to have patient engagement as a natural adjuvant to ensure the success of those programs. And again, the facts are here and you can read them. I'm not going to read them out to you. But there is no doubt now that there is demonstrable return on investment and that patient engagement programs and support does deliver triple win objectives. And that's better outcomes for patients, better outcomes for pharma, and better outcomes for society.